All right, it's stimulus update time on this Monday, and I want to talk to you about where things stand right now with Congress. Could we actually have a date? A date is starting to shape up, and we'll get to that in a moment. But because of the unemployment numbers, could we be seeing members of Congress wanting to put the brakes on that larger spending amount? That's the word. Of course, we saw good numbers last week, and unemployment numbers have fallen 2 months in a row. We saw administration officials and others out there touting how good it was that we went from 13.3% down to 11.1%. And when everyone thought, hey, it'd be up to 20%. And others are saying, whoa, wait a second, because these numbers don't reflect some of the larger things that are at play right now, which is that these numbers were taken before we went back under lockdown. I mean, look at Texas, for instance. Take a look at Texas numbers when they went into lockdown. And look at 50% open rate when Governor Abbott there started to open up restaurants again, back to 50% capacity at the end of June. And look at the spike in cases as a result of these openings. Even just like restaurants opening at 75%, right? Look at that on June 12th. And then again, Abbott orders bars closed again, and that didn't even stop it. Then an increase when restaurants went to 50%, and up to July 4th, we saw a record number of cases in Texas. So this idea about these jobs numbers is kind of a canard. It's kind of a red herring. It sounds great on paper, but when you actually look deeper at this and you realize that these numbers do not take into account the spike in cases that we saw over the past few weeks. So I hope members of Congress are paying attention that this is not a reason to do like some sort of a victory lap just yet, that we better get our act together and do something big. So here's President Trump talking about what he wants for a next round of stimulus. He specifically talks about checks. So anyone out there who says the president didn't talk about checks, yes, he did, multiple times. And here he is saying it once again. And he also says he wants it to be bigger than what the Democrats want. Listen.
Let me start with phase 4 and what might potentially come later this month. Another round of direct payments for individuals. Do you support that at this time?
I do. I support it, but it has to be done properly. And I support actually larger numbers than the Democrats.
Larger numbers than the Democrats. You heard it here, okay? I do support second checks, direct stimulus checks, and it's got to be smarter, and it's got to be bigger than what the Democrats want. So let's parse that a little bit. The Democrats in their HEROES Act wanted $1,200. So if we're talking just about the checks piece, $1,200 direct stimulus payment to the American people, plush toys, plus an additional $1,200 per up to three dependents. So a family of 5 could potentially have up to $6,000 in stimulus payments under the Democrats' HEROES Act. Okay. Now, what is President Trump? How would his plan be different? Well, it could be where there's some sort of a back to work bonus or a $2,000 per month or per family member that qualifies with a back to work bonus. So some combination of these two. We keep hearing from administration officials that they want a back to work bonus in addition to a payroll tax cut. So, but not everyone's on board with unemployment piece of this. And this is where Eugene Scalia, who is the labor secretary, said over the weekend that no, we will not have that extra $600 per week in unemployment insurance. That is no longer needed. We're done with it. So, folks, you can kind of kiss goodbye the idea of getting additional unemployment benefits of that large. Now I'm not saying that there wouldn't be some sort of a back to work bonus, but this continuation of this $600 per week is not going to happen. Senator Chuck Schumer has already proposed a bill in the Senate which would call for an extension of those $600 per week through the end of the year, or until we get back to a 6% unemployment. So it doesn't look like the administration has much of an appetite for that. Eugene Scalia was on Fox News Sunday, and he was asked about this next phase 4. What does he see, and what does he support along with the president?
Mr. Secretary, do you expect a deal shortly after lawmakers return from the Independence Day holiday?
I think there are going to be a lot of discussions toward the end of the month about what additional measures may be needed. The president moved so swiftly and so effectively to get bipartisan relief with Congress back in March. That was those direct payments. It was the Paycheck Protection Program, which I think has been really an essential part of the recovery we're experiencing right now. And it was also a very substantial unemployment benefit the president put in place in March. So we did a very good job, I think, back in March, positioning ourselves for this reopening. And I think the American people can be confident that the president is going to take a careful look again at what further measures may be needed now.
But I won't give you any specifics. So first, let me pat myself on the back. Let's pat us. Come on, everybody. Can you reach around and pat yourselves on the back and not answer the question? I love politicians. And someone said in the chat, is he the son of the Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia? Yes, he is the son of Antonin Scalia, who passed away a few years ago. Didn't really answer the question, but says the president is going to look long and hard at this and make a determination that will protect the American people. He praised there, though, the unemployment benefits, and he said it was very important that we did that. So I question then, if we're going back under lockdown in many states who are seeing a return to closures, wouldn't the extension of this unemployment benefit be vital so that people are not thrown out of their homes, evicted, having to live under overpasses and other things? But no, according to Labor Secretary, no, the $600 a week in unemployment insurance is no longer needed. We don't need it right now. It's not important. So that's the Labor Secretary. Mark Zandi from Moody's Analytics has been watching this very closely, and he has been very quick to say that we're going to stay in a permanent recession if we do not get another round of stimulus. And basically, Congress and the president better get off their rumps and pass something. Otherwise, we're in for a major problem. Listen to what Mark Zandi had to say. Pay close attention to what he's seeing here. He's not a politician. He's an economist. So listen to what he had to say on this exact issue.
It's absolutely critical. If Congress and the administration don't get it together in the next few weeks before Congress goes away on its August recess, I fear we're going back into recession because the economy needs a lot of help. And you point out there's a lot of, even though unemployment's back down, if you add up folks that are unemployed, people who have got their hours cut, that they're still working, but they got their hours cut, and then consider those folks that are still working, haven't gotten their hours cut, but got their pay cut, you're talking about a third of all American workers that are still struggling here. And if they don't get some additional help on, and as you know, the unemployment insurance expansion that was part of the original help to the economy is going away in 2 to 3 weeks. So if Congress and administration don't figure out how to provide more help to these folks, they're going to have absolutely no choice but to stop paying bills, cut spending, and the economy is really going to struggle. Here's the other thing. State and local governments are hemorrhaging red ink, right? So every state and local government across the country, it doesn't matter whether you're in a Republican state or a Democratic state, you're hemorrhaging red ink, and they're slashing payrolls. And these are middle income jobs. They're teachers, they're fire, they're police, they're emergency responders. These are the kinds of folks we need working at any time, but particularly in a pandemic. So it's just absolutely critical that Congress doesn't take the wrong message from the June jobs number and says, okay, mission accomplished, we're okay here. We're far from it. They need to provide a lot more help, and very soon.
That's the best statement on this that I saw all weekend, wouldn't you say? I think it's the most sane that I heard all weekend. Congress and president better get off their rumps and get something passed soon. So when will we see this? So if we're looking at the congressional calendar right now, I wanted to bring you a date today because analysts are pointing to when they get back from this July 4th recess. They're gone for 2 weeks. When they get back on the 21st, the 20th, they're going to start to work on this, according to congressional watchers. And that means they want this done before they leave for that August 6th recess. So anytime in between that window, we could see this bill come to the president's desk, and the president hopefully will sign it because they're not going to send anything to him that he's not already on board with Senator Mitch McConnell in his back pocket. So these things will come together here in the next few weeks if we can just hang on a little bit longer. I don't know how for some people, as we're seeing a wave of evictions across this country right now. And a drying up of these unemployment benefits. Many of you who had been waiting on getting your stimulus checks still have not received stimulus checks. Many of you who've been waiting on getting your unemployment benefits have not gotten unemployment benefits. So, I know it's a tall order to have to ask you to wait for another few weeks, but this is what we're dealing with. Congress is going to go home. They're going to enjoy their boats and their barbecues for a few weeks. They're going to go back to their constituents. They're going to go back to Texas. They're going to go back and see what a mess it is in some of these states right now. And hopefully it grounds them. Hopefully when they go back to Main Street and they go down to these storefronts and other places in their hometowns and they see that these stores are closed down, that these people are out of work, and if you guys have flooded their offices with phone calls and demanded that they take on an additional stimulus, I think they're going to return to Washington in a much different capacity. We've already heard from Nancy Pelosi that she's been negotiating with Republicans. They're bringing her pieces that they want included in a bill. But again, I go back to President Trump saying it's going to be bigger and there's going to be more money spent than what the Democrats want. But remember, the HEROES Act is over $3 trillion. Over $3 trillion is this HEROES Act. So that's a tall order. I'll believe it when I see it, but this is where we're at right now. Secretary Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, was talking about these jobs numbers and wanted to shed a little light on what their intentions are for the fourth phase as well. I wanted to make sure I covered all of the members of the administration who talked about this. He and Larry Kudlow, and I'll paraphrase, he said it's going to be a large-scale package. Large scale. He said direct checks are probably going to be a part of it as far as the president is concerned right now. The president wants large-scale checks. You can hear it in Larry's voice. He's not a fan of these next round of stimulus checks. The president is. He's also running for re-election. Let me just ask my viewers. Now, I don't mean to be cynical, but let me just ask you watching right now. How many of you think that we would get another round of direct stimulus checks if this was not an election year? Tell me, how many people think we would get another round of stimulus checks if this was not an election year? Meaning members of the House and Senate and the president trying to save his skin by sending out additional checks. If this was 2017, would we be getting additional stimulus checks right now? I'm going to leave it up to you. I'm not going to answer that question. I'm not going to lead the witness. You tell me in the chat what you think would happen. So here is Steve Mnuchin. Here's the last that I want to play from you, what he had to say at the podium.
As I've said, it's our priority when we get to the CARES 4 bill in July. We will look to work with the House and Senate on a bipartisan basis to repurpose that money. We have about $130 billion left. There are going to be a number of businesses that are particularly hard hit, and we'll be looking to give those businesses additional money. So CARES 4 will be much more targeted for the businesses that continue to need work. But there is no question that this is working. And we look forward to continuing this progress. Again, I think 8 million jobs, really extraordinary. Now, let me just...
So again, let's pat ourselves on the back about these 8 million jobs. And remember a lot of the temporary workers coming back. But Mark Zandi, I think, said it well when he said some of these people had back to work but had hours cut. So that's great that they're back on the payroll, but now they can't really afford to pay their bills because they had their hours cut in half. So that, yes, they've come off of the unemployment line, but now they've had their hours slashed. I've seen a lot of you tell me that in the chat as well. So there you go. That is your stimulus update for this Monday. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today on Morning Invest. I really want to thank you for subscribing to the channel, becoming part of this great community, and smashing that like button if we've brought you any value at all. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday. Much love to all of you. We will see you back here tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 9 a.m. Eastern time for your full show. We'll be following for you updates on stimulus, the economy, housing, all the things that I think matter to our family. Getting that stimulus in the hands of Americans right now is the #1 priority. So I hope Congress pays attention to what Mark Zandi had to say. Get off your rump, pass something. The American people need your help right now. So Congress, pay attention while you're sunning yourself on the beach. We'll see you next time, everyone.